All right, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. I'm really excited about my next guest. Now, I got to admit, Rick, my next guest, Rick, who does a podcast talking mostly about SEC football, mainly the Georgia Bulldogs. He kind of got me into this podcasting thing because I did like a little show for him about the Florida Gators, and I don't know if he liked it or not. I don't know if it was what he was looking for, but it got me the little bit of the taste of wanting to do this podcast. And I wanted to have Rick on because with everything going on in college football, this guy knows his stuff better than anybody that I've known personally in a really long time. Rick, what's going on, Rick? How are you?
Hey, what's up, Tuddle? Been a while since we talked, but yeah, that's that Florida podcast. It was good. It was just a little more than we wanted at the time. We're looking to build more SEC schools, and I appreciate what you did, reached out. But yeah, I'm glad it kind of got you that bug in the podcasting.
Yeah, man. So now explain to people, because you do have a very popular podcast. Tell people how they can check it out and tell people about it.
It's right now it's a new show. It's a Kudzu Sports. It was a Nothing Finer pod. It was a pretty good Georgia show.
Wait, Nothing Finer? For real?
Nothing Finer was us, and we expanded the SEC. It was hard to be a SEC with the name Nothing Finer because it's kind of tied in with Georgia. So we went to Kudzu, Auburn, Alabama. Auburn's only about 45 minutes away. University of Alabama is about 4 hours, and so we kind of take on more of them schools, that fan base. Because we figured if Nothing Finer worked, then we want more fan bases. Mm-hmm. And also, like you, I love the Atlanta Braves, so we get to talk about the Braves on the show. So,
dude,
we like covering sports.
I need to get up to see a Braves game. And everybody asks me why you were a Braves fan. Living in Florida, why were you a Braves fan? And it's very, very simple, okay?
Yeah.
When I was in high school, we just got the Florida Marlins, okay? Now, I grew up. Now, it also helped that Chipper Jones's dad was my math teacher in high school. But TBS, if you did not, there were two sports teams, the Chicago Cubs on WGN or the Braves on TBS. Those were the two big national teams that everybody watched because of those two networks.
Right.
And
you're around my age, so you remember the Braves were winning in the 90s, so they're a lot better to watch than the Cubs.
But, hey, do you want – you know what, though? One of my fondest memories, and that's what's great about sports. You're a sports fan.
Yeah. You
remember every goddamn detail of that sporting event. Now, for example, I came home early. It was one we had an early day from school, and I made it home to see Gary Wood pitch against the Houston Astros when he had his 20 strikeout game. I watched every single inning of that game, and I can tell you every tiny detail about watching that with my mom that day. Do you have that connection with sports? I think that's why people like sports.
Oh, absolutely. It can be a song, just like any memory. I mean, you can hear a song and it'll take you back to a memory. And I've told people before, the SEC championship 2 years ago and the national championship with Georgia, being at both them games at Mercedes-Benz, and they blared Sweet Home Alabama. And now, it's, anytime you hear that song, I think about walking in the rain. Both times it was raining after the game, walking back to the same parking lot. And just hearing anything, it'll take you back there. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with sports, even, at the game or on television.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad today. We were talking because, man, we're going to get to this. We're going to talk about the state of college football. But one of the big schools that keeps coming up about joining the SEC is Nebraska. Everybody's talking about Nebraska. Now, everybody makes that comment where you got to lose a championship to win one. And I think that's true because Florida absolutely got boat raced against Nebraska in 95. And then the following year, they followed it up and finally won their first national championship.
No, absolutely. I remember that.
Now, do you remember that play with Tommy Frazier when he ran around the corner and there was like 10 Florida Gator players that were trying to tackle him and they broke it? Everybody says that was one of the greatest runs. I don't think it was a great run. I just think it was poor tackling on the Gators' part.
Yeah, it seemed, Florida wasn't, and we're going back 20 years. Yeah, Florida never been in a game like that, especially giving up 60 points. And Spurrier,
Yeah.
they just kind of a team takes on their head coach. And, Spurrier was always flamboyant and a little cocky and arrogant. And the team takes that on. And if you have that attitude, it's hard to get punched in the mouth and recover. And, they didn't want to be there towards the end of the game, and they kind of got showed up by it. But they did bounce back, like a championship team would.
Yeah, but, I mean, they got completely blown out that game, and then they blew out their rival, Florida State, the following year. That score, I will always remember that score, 52-20. 52-20 will always be ingrained into my brain of us beating the Seminoles.
Well, y'all lost in the regular season that year,
yeah.
right? Then you got
I think it was by like 1 point. I think it was less than a field goal.
Yeah, it was close. Then it was, I think it was somebody lost. I think it was Nebraska lost the Big 12 championship to Texas.
Yeah.
Or something like that, something crazy.
Yeah. Oh, Arizona State had to beat Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. So there was like 3 games they had to go Florida's way for Florida to even have a chance.
Yeah, and then to beat Florida State to win it made it even sweeter.
So now, before we get into the state of college football, I want to talk. Now, I'm a Gators fan.
Right.
You're a Bulldogs fan. Even though I really do think, we have Florida State, but that Georgia, there's something about that Georgia-Florida rivalry, and you guys have had our number for the past 3 years. And I respect you guys. Even though you guys have handed us our ass the past 3 years, I got that respect for Georgia. Why is that rivalry so great?
Because it means everything in the East. It means a chance to play for the SEC title, which means a shot for the national title. Anytime, nobody else can say that except Auburn, Alabama, LSU, then Georgia, Florida, because no other conference has that type of division. Clemson don't have anybody that also is going to play for a national title. So for Florida, they know if they want to win a national title, you have to beat Georgia and vice versa. And that's why that game means everything. Yeah,
I mean, when I was in high school, because Georgia had some down years there in the 90s, it was whoever won that Florida-Tennessee game ended up winning the East. But now that Florida-Georgia game has become so important. Now, let me ask you, so do you think, in your opinion, are we going to have a college football season this year?
I want to say yes with everything, but it's so hard. Even with what Sankey said yesterday with moving forward, he's pretty much saying the next step is what they're going to do, which is practice. It starts the 17th on Monday. So they're going to go through a practice and then evaluate everything, which is what the Big Ten should have done. It's hard to pull the plug when you don't know. The SEC wants to get all the boxes checked off in order. Then if they can play September 26th, they're going to kick it off. And I think there's a chance they could. But, it's just depending on how things go.
Do they need to play in a bubble? Because if you look at what the NBA, the NHL, and MLS did, they've proved that it can be done.
Right, but you can't do it with amateur players. You have to admit that they're professionals, and then that erases the whole the fake mirage that they're not professional athletes. And, the administrators are never going to do that.
But I mean, you could still do distance learning. If the kids needed to go to school, you could keep them all in one area and still get the schooling that they need. It can be done.
Well, you could do it, but you have to treat them as regular students in class. You can't give them special treatment with, online learning versus going to class. They have to be treated as normal students. Yeah, and that's the problem that they're running into.
I agree. While we're on that topic, and I go on tangents, there needs to be a flat rate, but do you think
Oh, yeah.
college students should get a little help when it comes to being able to eat. I know the college football players get fed and stuff, but they're so busy practicing and going to school. Should they get
Yeah.
at least a little bit of something with the amount of money these schools are making off of these players?
They should at least get something for their likeness, jersey sales, autographs. You should be able to sell your autograph, stuff like that, which is pretty ridiculous that you can't sell your own name because you're considered an amateur. So, yeah, I believe they should get money for likeness. Absolutely.
Because, like, for example, and I noticed that for the first time, like that NCAA football game. I
Yeah.
knew that Tim Tebow was number 15
Yeah.
on the cover of the game. Even though
Yeah.
they didn't have his name on the jersey, everybody knew that was Tim Tebow.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
big left-handed white quarterback that could run. It was Tebow.
yeah. Now, all right. So, could this be an opportunity? A lot of people are freaking out, saying this could be the worst thing ever for college football. And the way I look at it, even though you're a Georgia fan, I'm a Florida fan. I still think the SEC is by far the best conference in college football. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, hands down. Hands down.
Could you see the SEC taking advantage of this situation? Because everybody complains about college football right now. I think this could be the change we've all wanted.
Oh, it could if it's handled correctly. Now, if it's handled correctly, this could be big. There's an opportunity for a players' union to form, and, that scares some administrators, but it shouldn't. It can be handled right. It could lead to better things. Now, like we said, the likeness, they should get paid for that. You got players on the cover. You got billboards. You're using the players' skill set to sell tickets. They should get paid some of that, and this could form into that. I don't believe what the Pac-12 wanted, where they wanted, coaches to take 50% pay cuts and money to go. And, all that's not going to work. But you can make it work, and it could be a positive if handled the right way.
I saw somebody tweet out, and they wouldn't even have to, if a bunch of teams joined the SEC, they wouldn't even have to rebrand it. Somebody said the Super Elite Conference. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw they were talking about adding teams from the Big 12 and
now,
Big 10.
if you had four teams, any from any conference, what four teams, if you had a dream scenario, what four teams would you like to see join the SEC?
Well, of course, you're going to go with Clemson and Florida State. You'd have to have that. I think them two teams you'd have to bring in. And after what transpired this week out of the Big 10, I'd take Iowa and Nebraska because they're the only two programs that voted to keep to play football. So obviously it matters to them. So you'd have to reward them, bring them into the SEC.
Now, UCF, because that's here locally. UCF, even though they would struggle, they're going to have to make a decision at some point because they're never going to get the respect in that conference. And they're going to have they're going to have some losing seasons, but this is the opportunity that they need to jump on and jump in on a big boy conference.
But their problem is going to be who's going to let them just come in to join the SEC. Has to get voted in by all the schools, and Florida don't want another Florida school in the conference. Florida State's already got Miami in the ACC, so they got the SEC to themselves. And it's going to be hard to convince Florida to share, especially when you got a team like UCF who could give Florida a run for their money. You would think in a couple of years past, absolutely, I think they could have. Right now, I think Mullen has picked up recruiting at Florida to a point where they could.
He
they
still
should
can't
beat
get
UCF.
those 5 stars like Kirby, though. Kirby,
No,
I got to give you guys credit. Kirby can get those 5-star guys, and that's the difference.
That's the difference.
Saban can get those 5-star guys, but I will say this about Mullen. He can take those lower star recruits and get the most out of their potential. And I think that's where Mullen shines.
Well, the thing for Mullen he has to do, what he's shown, and I've been impressed with, he's won the games Florida's supposed to win. He had the one hiccup with Kentucky his first year, but really they haven't lost to a Vanderbilt or lost to a Missouri that they shouldn't have won or shouldn't have lost, So he's done a good job of winning those games. But the problem, what you're saying, he gets the most out of his talent and he did that at Mississippi State, but he couldn't beat Alabama at Mississippi State, and he's going to have to eventually beat Georgia to show he can, get that much.
Oh, no, I'm telling you right now, I don't like to put pressure. He has to beat Georgia.
Yeah, that's absolutely what has to do.
He has to. I mean, I know you're a Georgia fan, but if he wants to progress, he did win one more game than his first season. He's got to beat Georgia. That is the most important game of the season for him, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. And just the same, for Georgia, it's all about winning the SEC. For Florida, they can beat Georgia, they get over that hump. But right now, it seemed last year would have been the year to beat Georgia because we were down on offense. And, we were sitting primed for the picking.
We made some pretty crucial mistakes in that game, though. I mean, we really did. Say what you want. Even though we did lose, and I know it sounds like, the losing mentality. I still think we gave LSU their best game of the season. We hung with them. We hung with them for 3 quarters in Death Valley at night. Now, a lot of people are like –
Auburn did it in the daytime, but, y'all hung with them at night.
Now, a lot of people and a lot of people are like, well, what's the difference at night? Explain to people that maybe not know, what is the difference between playing a night game and a day game at Death Valley at LSU? Because these people are beard up all day.
Yeah, well, Death Valley, and even, a sneaky stadium with that, Jordan Hare in Auburn, it is sneaky loud. There's only 88,000 that hold in that stadium. But at night, it's a different atmosphere. Most stadiums do it, but Death Valley, it's louder than anything you could ever imagine on the field. You can't hear. It affects your vision because your ears get to hurting after a while. So it's Death Valley at night is a whole nother a 3:30 game and a 7:45 game in LSU is like say a night and day difference. It is a night and day difference.
What's your top 3 stadiums, toughest places to play on the road in the SEC?
In the SEC?
Yeah.
Well, I'll put Jordan Hare number 1 just because Alabama's hard to tell because they got such a good team.
But that's like a professional stadium, though. When you look at Alabama Stadium, that looks like an NFL stadium.
Yeah, but you don't know how much the stadium affects the game because you're going against elite team.
Yeah.
For Auburn, I've been to Auburn where Georgia's had hands down better talent, and the stadium 100% affect the game. So I would put, Jordan Hare, Death Valley, and then here in the last couple of years, Sanford Stadium at Georgia has made a big jump from where it used to be from the old person stadium, and they did a lot of remodeling, a lot of, making it more of a college atmosphere with Kirby coming in.
Now, I don't remember this. Maybe you're more of a Georgia fan, but there was a couple of years there where they were working on the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Didn't they play? They did a home and away in Georgia, then in Gainesville. When was the last time they did that? I think that was late 90s, early 2000.
Yeah, it was like 96, maybe 95. 95, 96, something to that effect. It was Kirby was at Georgia. He was playing safety when they came to Athens.
Mm-hmm.
That was
now. Do you like the neutral game? I don't know. I would like to see what this series would be like at each other's stadiums.
Well, I'd like to see from a recruiting aspect. It'd be a great recruiting tool for Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart to bring in these elite guys at an elite game. Where Alabama, they get the LSU game. They get the Iron Bowl to bring the recruits. Georgia don't have that. We get, maybe last year we had Notre Dame game, but there's not that game every other year where it's an elite atmosphere.
I was in the hospital, and I unfortunately did not get to see that Georgia Notre Dame game. My dad, because I was calling him. This was right after I tried to hurt myself on Bubba's show. And I got Baker acted. I was in the hospital during the Georgia Notre Dame game, and my dad said that was a pretty exciting game.
Yeah, it was. It was. That's when we first kind of realized Georgia's offense wasn't quite up to what people thought it was going to be, but the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. It was a different thing that I ever noticed or ever witnessed in my life.
Now, we don't know what the exact schedule for the SEC is going to be. And now I think they kind of did this on purpose, but did you see the one of the games that was added to the Florida schedule, who they're going to be playing?
Yes.
Arkansas and Felipe Franks.
Yeah.
I think that
Gainesville.
that could come back to bite us in the ass, because now I like what are your thoughts on Kyle Trask?
I think he's a solid quarterback. It's hard to really put him up into that next
Elite.
echelon of quarterbacks, but yeah, it's hard to put him up there with, I don't think he's going to come out, obviously, have a Joe Burrow type, but I think he's right up there with the Bo Nixes of the SEC. I think Bo Nix is a really good quarterback.
He does what you need him to do. He's going to limit his mistakes, and that's what you need right now, in my opinion. But
I don't think he's a Dan Mullen type quarterback. He's that, field
but
general.
Dan likes the runners, though, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought Emory Jones would have broke through a little more than he has.
Though Emory has a goddamn cannon. I mean, when he does throw, and is it just me, or does it always look weird to see a left-hander throw? It just does not look natural to me.
No, it looks like somebody standing in a mirror.
Yeah, it is bad. No, Emory's going to get his opportunity. But, also the SEC is a big boy conference. And when you get a lot of those running quarterbacks, they get hurt. They do get hurt. And Emory's not the big guy. Now, Tim Tebow, he could have ran the ball 30 times a game, and I don't think he would have ever gotten hurt.
Yeah, he was built like a brick shit house. It wasn't nothing hurt him.
Now, so back to what I was saying. So what I was saying about Felipe, technically, the guy has a strong arm. That throw he made against Tennessee, that Hail Mary, do you remember that Hail Mary that he threw? That was almost 65 yards, and it was a rocket.
And it was a dime. It was right where it needed to be.
But he makes poor decisions. And I think
his
that's where
between
Kyle,
the ears, it ain't the arm.
Yeah, I think that's where Kyle came in and was able to pick it up. So what are your Bulldogs looking like this year? I mean, if they do play, I know Kirby got a lot of flack after the way he talked about some of his players after that SEC championship. I really didn't look too much into it. I thought it was Kirby trying to motivate his players.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were kind of like, oh, why is Kirby running his players down?
Yeah, well, I think what Georgia's going to have is an elite defense, which shouldn't surprise anybody with Kirby, but the players that we have coming back at every level, so defensive line, linebacker, and secondary is elite. It's people with plenty of experience, high-rated players, top draft picks. And on offense, we have the kid from Wake Forest coming in, and then you have Todd
heard about him. I heard about him. I didn't do a lot of research, but I hear the kid has got some wheels, and he's got a pretty good arm.
He's a big kid. He's got a strong arm. He has real high. His efficiency on deep balls was the highest in the nation last season. But playing at Wake Forest, you're not going to get the recognition or the talent around you is nowhere near what he's going to have at Georgia with 3 5-stars at wide out and tight end, 2 5-stars at running back, and 3 5-stars on the offensive line.
What is it going to take for Georgia to get over that hump? I mean, you guys were so close in that game against Alabama, and I don't know. As a Georgia fan, was that like a shot in the gut for you guys? I mean, you guys got that close, got to overtime. What is it going to take to get over that hump?
More the second game with Alabama was more of a shot in the gut. The first game, Georgia ran out of talent in the national championship. We didn't have the depth that we have now. We had 2- and 3-star defensive backs that got burned by 5-stars. And what Kirby did was go get 5-stars and 4-stars at safety and corner and go on with that. Now, Georgia's, they got top-notch talent at first string, second string, third string. But that second time, the SEC championship, the following year, we lost to Alabama. That one hurt. That was the game we had it, and we just kind of let it slip away when Jalen Hurts come in. But, yeah, to say what Georgia needs to do is simple. Beat Alabama. I mean, it sounds too easy to really go out there and do, and they get Bama in the regular season this year.
Oh, they do.
In Tuscaloosa. Which, if the fans, you're not going to have a full house, it kind of goes advantage Georgia as far as how that goes.
That's going to be the interesting thing, that you're not going to have that home crowd. You know,
that's a big deal.
And that's why I like college sports better than the pros. It just seems like people got some extra skin in the game when it comes to rooting. You can just tell by the noise and just how feverish everybody is in the stadium. And that's why I like college football way better than the pros.
Yeah, there's a buzz at a college game from pregame until walking to the car after the game. There is a buzz, and you just feel the electricity going all the time, and it's something you just don't get at nothing. I tell you, you're familiar with NASCAR. In the early 2000s, we used to go to the Bristol race.
Oh, man.
The night race back in the early 2000s, late 90s, was special. You just feel the mojo in the air, so to say.
And I try to tell people, and they don't believe me, if you wanted to get in on that Bristol night race, somebody had to die for you to be able to get tickets. Like, I'm not exaggerating. People thought I was joking when I say that. But now it's just sad to see during the Bristol race all the empty seats, because like I said, I'm not joking. Somebody had to die for you to be able to get into that Bristol race. That's how popular it was.
It was incredible. It was I've never seen nothing like it. Going, college games and pro games and baseball games, but the night race in Bristol back 15 years ago, 20 years ago was a different animal than anything you see. And it's so sad to see now, even especially before the pandemic, the crowds at NASCAR races across, everywhere is just pitiful.
Man, I got to tell you though, I really do think this no practice getting into the race is evening the playing field. In my opinion, for NASCAR. It's made the racing more exciting. Hell, we got the Daytona road course this weekend.
Yeah,
here,
and it's cheaper.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see, because everybody's talking about the Roval at Charlotte. Do you realize at Daytona, these guys are not going to have a restrictor plate on that car, and they're going to have to get that thing slowed down when they get into that first turn on that big long stretch there, because they're going to be getting up to speed.
Yeah, they're going to be hauling it, and they added a chicane coming into the tri-oval. So it's going to be interesting, because nobody's been on that track. A lot of them drivers never been on there before.
And now a couple of quick questions, and then I'm going to let you go. But dude, this has been a great conversation, Rick. I'm not trying to, give each other oral here, but I'm saying that this has been pretty interesting. I really do. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? My dad's been watching a lot of Paul Feinbaum. What's your opinion on Paul Feinbaum?
I like Paul. I think he's a good referee, more to say. He knows how to agitate, as you know that yourself, how to do that. He knows how to agitate two people and then just sit back and let them go. And that's what he does. And that's what he's did before the show on TV, is he knows how to get a fan base riled up and get them to call in and just give them the air and let them, air their grievances out, and then pick some other fan base.
Is this story true? I heard a rumor that somebody actually called into Paul Feinbaum's show, and they the guy that poisoned the tree. Dude,
oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, that was Harvey Updike called in. He passed away a couple weeks ago. He called the Iron Bowl 2009.
Don't they call it Tumor's tree or something?
Tumor's Corner is after every Auburn game, they throw toilet paper in the trees. Well, in 2010, Cam Newton was at Auburn, and they won in Tuscaloosa, and somebody put a Cam Newton jersey and taped it to the Bear Bryant statue. Mm-hmm. And this grown man called Paul Feinbaum and said he saw that picture of the statue, and it made him so mad that he went and got some poison, and he poisoned the trees. And
How old was that tree? How old was that tree?
It was pretty hundreds of years old. And he did poison it, and they died, and they got new ones over there now. But yeah, he killed the trees.
Man, that sucks. I mean, that's a pretty fucked up thing to do, but
Yeah.
it just shows you how much people have invested into SEC football.
Oh, you know what his excuse was? What his excuse was?
What?
He said he had too much Bama in him. So that
Oh
just tells
man,
you what it is.
dude, it frustrates me when I try to debate and everybody says, "Oh, you're just a homer, you're from the South." But I really, really do think that the SEC is the strongest from top to bottom when it comes to competition, because that's the thing about the SEC. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, why don't you get very many undefeated seasons? I mean, until Bama just started running and making everybody their bitch, you didn't see a lot of undefeated teams coming out of the SEC because they all beat each other.
Yeah, 100. I mean, look at it this way: the Pac-12 and the Big Ten canceled football, and you might be missing one playoff team. If the SEC backed out of football, there's 4 or 5 teams every year that could be in the playoffs. I mean, you got to think. Last year, nobody thought LSU was going to be in the playoffs. Then they won the national championship.
Yeah,
I mean, it just shows you.
And then during like the 2000s, I think the SEC had like 8 straight years. It was like 8 straight years of national champions.
Yeah, and I think it's been every year but one in the last 15. There's been an SEC team in the national championship, including 2 national championships with 2 SEC teams.
Yes.
That's
so if anybody ever wants to debate me on that, it's not even close.
No, look at the NFL.
No, I mean, yes, look at all the NFL players. Now, one last question. How do you think Tua is going to do? Does he get playing time this year as a Dolphin? I think he does.
I think he'll get playing time. Now, how he stays healthy, that's another question, but he's going to have to prove his health. He's got hurt every year at Alabama.
Yeah, but and he can't do that in the NFL because there's some grown men there. There really is.
Yeah, that running around stuff ain't gonna work in the NFL.
No, it's
that
not.
Running around and all that stuff he did at Alabama trying to get receivers up. That ain't gonna.
Now, do you have, before I let you go, any predictions? Any predictions for the college football season coming? I don't care how obscure it is. Anything we need to be looking out for?
Surprisingly, as a Georgia fan, of course, always going to want to go with Georgia, being a top team. But I look for Auburn kind of surprising people in the SEC.
Really?
And I think they're going to be really good.
He was a young kid, right?
Yeah, Bo Nix.
Yeah, he showed me a lot. He had a rough game at Florida, but he has so much potential.
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback. He's got, Chad Morris was the offensive coordinator at Clemson before he went and was a disaster as a head coach at Arkansas. But he's the OC at Auburn now. They got Gus still. They got a really good running back coming in. They got one good power back coming back. They got 3 good wide. Their offense is going to be really good, and that could be a dangerous team in the SEC.
Yeah. Tell people how they can check you out, your social media. Just plug everything you want to plug. I'm giving you the podium.
All right. There's Facebook. It's Kudzu Sports. We're live on Facebook every Sunday night at 6. And we got a YouTube that just started this week. It's Kudzu Sports. We're live on that Sunday nights. There's only a handful of subscribers right now because, like I said, we just started that channel. So please go to that and subscribe. Then all social media, just search at Kudzu Sports, from TikTok to Instagram, Twitter. We're on it. I don't really get on it as much as I need to because we just built these sites because we flipped over from the other page to what we are now. So get on there. And like I said, if we start getting some more followers, I'll start interacting more. It's at Kudzu Sports. And like I said, it's Facebook and YouTube every Sunday at 6. We're on there live.
Well, listen, if we end up having a college football season when we get to the start of it, I mean, if you want to, I'd like to start having you on once a week because, you would be surprised that this podcast in about 5 to 6 months has grown leaps and bounds. Like, I'm serious. I've got sponsors, the averages that I'm getting on a daily basis now. It blows me away how much it's grown.
Yeah, it's a good show. I like how you insert clips. I heard from the Bubba show when you called in the other day and you put them clips in there.
Yeah.
So still got some Bubba Army that listen.
Well, I mean, you're more than welcome. If you're interested, I'd like for you to be my college football guy to
Hey,
come on
anytime.
and visit.
I enjoy it. I love talking, talking football, especially to a sports fan like yourself. And like I said, the Braves, anything. I love sports, NASCAR, all
Dude,
that stuff is just fun to do.
I'm getting really close. I'm working on it, trying to get Chipper on the show. I've booked him for some past radio shows, but I'd like to get him on because the guy is very opinionated and he's good at what he does. So I would definitely like to have him on. He did hit the longest home run ever hit off of me in an alumni baseball game. Dude jacked me like 500 feet, and he wasn't even using an aluminum bat. Dude brought out the wood and like hit it over the driver's ed training area, and it bounced onto the street. Man, it's crazy good. It's amazing. If he wouldn't have had those injuries, I really do think he would have got 3,000 hits and 500 home runs.
Yeah, and then for a switch hitter, that's just amazing. He's the only switch hitter to bat 300 in baseball, so that shows you right there how amazing he is.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, man, I really, really appreciate you coming on with me, man. And I want to do this some more because I think you're very talented and very knowledgeable when it comes to college football.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And like I said, I'll be more than happy to join you. It's fun. Been real fun.
Also, I can listen to you talk all day long. There's something about that Georgia accent. Everybody's like, oh, it's the South, just like Florida. No, I don't know what the difference is, but the Georgia, I love it. I absolutely love the Georgia accent.
It's this Central Georgia twang we got. There's like 3 different languages in Georgia.
All right, man. Have a good night, and I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, Tuddle.
All right, man. Thanks.